Coming up, authorities charge a Coffeeville man with first-degree murder.
It is officially game on as the rain is going to stick around for really the next 24 hours. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And law enforcement agencies across the nation want to remind holiday drivers, if you don't click it, you will get a ticket.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Lock in. It's not going anywhere. It is on us to stay. And every now and then, we get the bouts of the heavy rain that come down as well. I guess if I could find one silver lining on this Tuesday morning, we are not picking up a ton of lightning with it. Right now, it's staying as shower activity. Let's work from south to north, where we're starting to move across the Missouri state line into Newton and McDonald. Of course, it's just been raining pretty much since yesterday afternoon throughout northeast Oklahoma, making its way north. We've got heavy rain then coming down in Montgomery into Labette County, and then up in the Chanute, Yates Center, Iola area as well. And just as anticipated, our flood warnings are expanded geographically from where we were yesterday. Flood watches, excuse me. If you go down south of Tulsa, or you see that lime green, that's a flash flood warning. But we are in the midst of flood watches for most of southeast Kansas, minus our counties right along the state line. We're looking, anticipating 2 to 4 inches of rain here by the time it is all said and done. There we are over a wet 7th and range line. The rain's let up just a little bit in Joplin, but it certainly is going to reemerge here in just a matter of minutes. And we sit at 58 degrees. Temperatures much more manageable than what we had yesterday when we talked about those wind chills that were down into the 30s. So we'll roll mid to high 50s right now. But the key factor is we just are not going to be able to buck any of the precipitation because it continues to roll in from south central Oklahoma, and eventually we're going to see it dominate the eastern portion of our counties as well. And even though you may get a little sporadic break for tonight, well, guess what? It just wants to last all the way into Wednesday morning. After that, we do get a little bit of a legitimate break from Thursday into Friday. That's accompanied with a warm front. Still looking at a very nice Memorial Day weekend. We just got to keep our heads above water before we get there.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically what you're saying is if you didn't get your yard mowed over the weekend on Monday, then it ain't happening. Or for some of us where it's essentially been underwater for weeks, it still ain't happening. You might just have to transition it into a lake.
Go to the old rock yard that my cousin has in Arizona.
There you go. There you go. All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, Coffeyville, Kansas police arrest a man for murder. Authorities believe 61-year-old David Jackson killed 47-year-old Melvin Sampson Jr. in a Coffeyville home on May 16th. Police saw him coming out of the home and arrested him on unrelated charges. He was being held at the Montgomery County Jail. They arrested him on charges of first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon, among other crimes. Another Coffeyville man will face a jury trial in December after he was charged with raping an infant less than 18 months of age. A judge said during a preliminary hearing there was enough evidence to bring 57-year-old Archie Cannon in front of a jury. He's charged with rape and aggravated intimidation of a witness or victim. Bond is set at $100,000. State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas after a person was found dead in the home. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning of a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. Authorities say there was no fire, but one wall of the home had been blown out by an explosion, and 3 other exterior walls and the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent a further collapse of the home and then went in and found the body. They have not yet released the victim's identity. ATF and State Fire Marshal's office are helping with the investigation. City of Chanute is warning residents about a scam call going around. Officials say the scammers are telling residents they overpaid their utility bills and are owed a refund. But to send the refund, they need the resident's credit card and personal information. The city is not making these calls. They say if you overpaid, the difference will show up as a credit on your next bill. The Humane Society of the United States is out with its Horrible 100 for 2022. The list is an annual report on puppy breeders and dealers that the Humane Society has deemed as problematic because of treatment or living conditions of the animals. This is the 10th year of the report, and like the 9 previous years, Missouri is reported as having the highest number of dealers listed with 26. Kansas has 7 dealers listed, and Oklahoma has 1. You can view the report on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Click It or Ticket campaign is underway across the nation this week. It's a reminder to drivers heading into the holiday weekend to always buckle up. It provides grant money to local law enforcement agencies so they can put extra deputies on the road to enforce seatbelt laws and keep other drivers safe. Officials say there are a number of dangers to not being buckled up. Some are obvious, others are not.
A lot of people don't realize also that if they're in the passenger with somebody, if the other person has a seatbelt and they don't, they'll do a lot of damage to that individual in a car wreck themselves. So it's important for everybody, not just the driver, but the passengers, everybody, to have a seatbelt on.
Jennings says around 65% of car accident deaths in Missouri are people who are not buckled up. There's no need to investigate what today is. It's National Scavenger Hunt Day. Every year on May 24th, National Scavenger Hunt Day sends us off to find random items, all in the name of good fun. Did you know American gossip columnist, author, songwriter, and professional hostess Elsa Maxwell is credited with the introduction of the scavenger hunt for use as a party game in the modern era? I did not. The game challenges teams to scavenge for a list of odd items. As part of the rules, participants are not allowed to buy the objects. Depending on where the hunt takes place, players may have to beg, barter, or even work for them. Some scavenger hunts add difficulty to the game by adding riddles describing each item. The team with the most item or the first to complete the list wins. Scavenger hunts have become popular at weekend get-togethers, parties, family gatherings, and holidays.
You do not have to scavenge to find any rain.
No.
You have not had to do that the entire month of May, as we're easily going to be picking up about twice as much precipitation as we usually would during our normal 5th month of the year. Continuing to come down, and here's what we're looking at down to the south. Now remember, everything down to the south is headed toward us, so we're a long way from being over. We do find ourselves on the very far easterly part of this, and that's why some places in southwest Missouri have actually really to pick up any drops as of yet. I promise you this, everybody is going to end up with rain by the end of today, some places looking at 2 to 4 inches.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Wildcats hit the diamond for Class 2 state semifinal matchup. Do they have what it takes to move on to the finals? We'll let you know in sports. Plus, order the large popcorn with extra butter because summertime movies are back. We want to know which ones you are excited for. There's a big list for me. And you may not think of tomatoes when it comes to vitamin D, but some researchers think you will soon. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Diamond Wildcats taking the field for the Class 2 state semifinals. It's the Wildcats' second straight Final Four appearance. Diamond aiming to make program history against Kennett as the Wildcats down 5-2 in the third. 2 runners on for Caitlin Suri, and she delivers. Suri ties the game up at 5. Madison Bentley went the distance in the circle for Diamond, struck out 6. Kennett Woodrue take the lead in the 5th. Emma Tennant with the pop-up. That's going to score Lauren Turner 6-5 Indians, but all the Wildcats will not be denied. They come back once more, walk it off 7-6 as Diamond is headed to the program's first ever state championship.
Oh my gosh, I'm just thrilled. I'm super proud of my girls. That was a really tough ball game, probably one of the longest ball games all season, and they just fought every inning to stay in it and stay alive, and it just paid off. They just did awesome.
Class 1 state semifinal, Jasper up against Holcomb. Jasper up 1-0, but Holcomb 2 on, nobody out. Grace Osborne goes to work. Sophomore strikes out the next 3 batters and ends the threat. Osborne does finally get a little bit of offense. RBI double scores Emerson Bass. But the Eagles still have a lead. Later in the inning, Abigail Dumm The ground out brings home Madeline Hatfield. Osborne, complete game shutout, 3-0 Eagles. Jasper advances to the state title game.
So excited, so excited. Like, this is what I've been trying to get to. This point in my life is what I've been trying to get to my entire life, pretty much. Playing for a state championship is a big deal where we come from. It's a big deal.
Go get them, Gracer. I love that. I love that emotion right there. Switch over to baseball. Liberal Bulldogs earning a spot in the Class 1 state tournament, facing Billings in the sectional round. And Billings breaks out the Bass, wins this thing 17-7. Liberal season, they ended a marvelous overall record, 17-7. Got the Bulldogs. They ended up 17-7. All right, over in Kansas, Iola Mustangs headed to the Class 4 state tournament. Iola going for the first time since 2018, and that's when they won it all. Iola, the 4 seed for the tournament, and facing Ottawa. That's the 5 seed. This will be the quarterfinals on Thursday. Mustangs enter the tournament with momentum, coming off of a regional title against the defending Class 3 state champs.
In both of our regional games, we've came out in the first couple of innings and struck first, and hopefully we can continue to do that. I would say it starts with our three lefties that we have. They've all are hitting over 450 for us. And then we have a lot of our right-handed sticks that are stepping up. A few of them are hitting in the mid 300s. So it's balancing out nice.
Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, as cases of monkeypox appear in the United States, the CDC says it can contain this virus from spreading. And a check on our 7-day forecast from the KOAM Morning News returns. 5:17, roll some weather on the 7. Speaking of magic numbers, Joplin Regional Airport now clocking in at 0.2 of an inch of rain, and we got a long way to go, that is for sure. Seeing the heavy rain now move through Newton and McDonald County, just to the south of I-44. You can track that out to the west through northeast Oklahoma, portions of mainly Ottawa County right there. And then we every time you see the yellow, remember, that's going to be where it's pouring. Out to the east has been interesting because that dividing line, really right along I-49, hasn't had a lot of easterly movement as of yet. But since we're tracking everything that's down here to the south that's headed our way out of Oklahoma City area, this is going to take a while before we get a chance to dry off. Put the lightning tracker on, all that lightning really does stay down there in OKC. For the most part, even with our cloudy skies, we have not picked up a lot of cloud to ground lightning. Hopefully we can kind of keep it that way. And again, really south of I-44 here lately is where we're seeing it pick up. Talk about some of those accumulation numbers. When you drop into that lighter green along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line, that's already in excess of 1.5 inches of rain. Move up into that lighter blue, that's anywhere from about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. But we will steadily see these colors expand. Everybody's going to end up in the green, if not yellow and orange, indicating 2 to 4 inches. And of course, that's why we've got the flood watches expanding from yesterday, where we just had them on the western edge of southeast Kansas now, encompassing about 8 more counties moving to the east, still leaving the state line alone for the time being. But the fact that we're picking up now flash flood warnings in Wichita and in Tulsa, that's going to be that lime green that you see, an indicator that if that's where all that rain's coming from, we still have a ways to go. Live look over 7th and Range Line. We're just since we last checked on it, we're starting to see an uptick back with the precipitation. And the wind, luckily not too bad. That wind could have made quite a difference there as far as our wind chills go, but we're going to keep it at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And that's why we're able to hover from around 54 up to, we got a couple 60s on the board now, whether it be Miami Grove or Anderson Joplin sits at 58. Now, we're the big one throughout the contiguous 48, that is for sure. But on the severe thunderstorm risk map, this is some great news as well. If you stay in that lightest of the green right there, that takes away your threat of high wind and hail, and it really kind of isolates that through most of Texas. And then as you kind of graduate down right along the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, that's where, like I said, you do have a chance for the high wind and hail, but that lighter the green, that's simply some May thunderstorm activity. up into the high 60s later on today. It'd just be nice if we could get a break, and that is not going to happen. Here it continues to roll in from the south, turning over on itself. That's a counterclockwise motion that we'll be looking for this afternoon into this evening. And even though it looks like sporadically overnight, we're like, hey, maybe no rain will fall. Well, we still got a little bit of residual there that wants to buckle back in and bring us additional rainfall for Wednesday night into Wednesday afternoon. And once again, it's just everything coming out of the Gulf. Look at all that Gulf moisture just kind of dominating the entire Midwest, working up from the southeast. Going to eventually warm up, just got to dry off first. So it'd be one thing, I guess, if it were extremely humid outside, oppressively muggy, anything like that. That will not be the case because our temperatures remain well below normal. But then by the time we get to Friday, we can finally take a deep breath, get ready for a nice little sunshine and warm up just in time for Memorial Day. By that point in time, we are going to need it. That's for sure. All right, time now for our Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Insta poll and our Facebook page. Hollywood serving up a trailer buffet, including 2 films about very different music legends and the latest installment of a franchise that constantly pushes the limits. David Daniel with the roundup. He's got today's Hollywood Minute.
You're fighting to save an ideal that doesn't exist. Never did. You need to pick a side.
Tom Cruise and his IMF team return in the first trailer for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. The 7th and penultimate film in the blockbuster action series is due in theaters July 14th, 2023, with Part 2, the series finale, set to drop in June 28th, 2024.
In that moment, Elvis the man was sacrificed, and Elvis the God was born.
I'm gonna show you what the real Elvis is like tonight!
Here's your latest look at Austin Butler as the king of rock and roll in Elvis. Tom Hanks also stars in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis Presley epic, which starts Taking Care of Business in theaters June 24th.
All people, no matter who they are, all wish they'd appreciated life more. It's what you do in life that's important, not how much time you have, or what you wish you'd done.
The first teaser trailer is out for Age Daydream, billed as a cinematic odyssey exploring David Bowie's creative and musical journey. The first film sanctioned by the Bowie estate is due out in IMAX and other theaters in September. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Our question to you, what summer movie are you excited about? And we not only have those 3 that we had as part of that story right there, but we threw in Jurassic World and Thor, Love and Thunder as well for different options. All you have to do to connect, KOAMNewsNow.com/vote, or go directly to our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. We'll be back with Healthwatch next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, monkeypox cases across the world are growing. Here in the U.S., the CDC is monitoring 6 people for possible infections. But as health officials warn more cases could be ahead this week, they're also easing concerns. Why they say they can contain this virus from spreading. Jen Sullivan has the details.
A growing monkeypox outbreak around the world. The CDC closely watching a cluster of 6 people for possible infections as health officials and President Biden work to ease growing concerns over the virus.
I just don't think it rises to the level of the kind of concern that existed with COVID-19 and the smallpox vaccine works for it. So, but I think people should be careful.
The World Health Organization says there are more than 90 confirmed cases in a dozen countries where monkeypox is not already endemic. The illness is mostly found in West and Central Africa, but the CDC says it's concerned by the rising number of cases reported outside those regions. On Sunday, the White House COVID-19 response coordinator said more cases could be ahead, but doesn't expect monkeypox to have a widespread impact in the U.S.
It's not as contagious as COVID, so I am confident we're going to be able to keep our arms around it.
The U.S. government has ordered $119 million worth of vaccines against this virus. Monkeypox is related to smallpox, but less deadly. Symptoms include fever, chills, headache, muscle weakness, swelling in the lymph nodes, and lesions and rash on the body.
it's mostly spread by direct contact. So it's fluid contact, it's contact from sheets, it's contact from hands. If someone has those big bumps.
And here's what we know about the 6 people the CDC is currently monitoring in the U.S. They're passengers who sat near an infected traveler who had symptoms while on a flight from Nigeria to the U.K. earlier this month. Separately, CDC officials are also investigating a case of monkeypox confirmed in a man in Massachusetts who had recently traveled to Canada. COVID-19 is still prevalent among U.S. children. The American Academy of Pediatrics says the number of new infections is up 72% from 2 weeks ago, from May 12th to May 19th. More than 107,000 kids tested positive for COVID-19. The number of pediatric cases have been increasing over the last 6 weeks. Among all age groups, there's about 100,000 new cases per day. According to Johns Hopkins University, numbers have not been that high since February. Meanwhile, hospitalizations are also up in most states. As the weather warms up, health experts want people to take steps to prevent E. coli. E. coli is usually found in pool water due to polluted filters or someone swimming while having diarrhea. Analysts recommend washing your hands and showering before getting into the pool, and they say people who have diarrhea should not swim. Please don't. The CDC says people going to the bathroom in the pool can cause E. coli. These guidelines should be used for public and private pools. It's not a Snickers bar, folks. Move over milk. Scientists believe the next big source of vitamin D could come from a lab. In a study published Monday, researchers say they have edited tomato genes and think the fruit has the potential to produce vitamin D. Scientists used relatively new technology to edit the fruit's genes and found they contained a precursor to the important micronutrient. This could be big news for vegans and vegetarians, giving them a plant-based source, since the 2 best dietary sources for vitamin D are still dairy and fish. Researchers say if farmers and producers adopt the process commercially, tomatoes could be used to help the 1 billion people around the globe that have vitamin D deficiency. That's a look at some of the top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, Ukraine's appeal for international aid includes a recruitment campaign to its International Legion. It's attracted a wide range of volunteers, many of whom have been sent home after screening. But others, including former U.S. Special Forces commandos, have brought skills honed over years during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to bear against Russia. Sam Kiley speaks with an American insurgent in this exclusive report.
How did you know where to go?
We didn't. We just knew the enemy was this way.
Go, 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 go.
We just hop through these backyards and clear through here.
It's not as straightforward as it sounds.
He's not crossing the street. He's going to go into that building.
Veterans of years of counterinsurgency warfare, this small team of American and British fighters is under Ukrainian command. And they now look at war down the other end of the barrel and have asked us to conceal their identities for their own security. This is a war that has a moral clarity for these volunteers in Ukraine's International Legion.
You know, people keep saying, oh, you're doing it for democracy. It's really not, you know. It's really comes down to good versus evil. I never figured out why they were killing women and children. And it wasn't by accident, it was murder. I mean, we found many people just up the end of the street that were bound together and shot, thrown on the side of the road.
Many in Kevin's team, ex-Special Forces operators, have had millions spent on their training in the West, in countries that won't send troops to war with Russia. Among the first into Irpin, they took over this house behind enemy lines. He says the team killed dozens of Russians in the park below. He says that the fighting and the shelling and the Russian killing of civilians was relentless.
Two pro-Russians in here.
As Kevin's team advanced, he says they got trapped in this health spa for several days. It was steadily torn apart by Russian artillery.
This was the house of hell. This was 4 really miserable days of really little sleep, really heavy artillery, really heavy infantry presence from the Russians.
Kevin's small team is funded largely by donations to the Ukrainian Legion. It operates mostly behind Russian lines, and they were stunned at first at being on the receiving end of airstrikes and heavy artillery. But they're applying the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan to Russia and believe that they're having an effect on the enemy.
There's definitely a psychological aspect to it. We do know that the Russians were talking about, hey, they're up, like we can't figure out where they're at. We don't know what's happening. We were being artilleried so heavy that we put this chair here so we could jump out this window if we had to in a hurry.
Deeper into the spa, he comes across evidence that Russia plays dirty, even in local defeat.
So a lot of the Russians came back through some of these places and remined them. We'll put booby traps, and you can see this cable goes back into the ground where it's been intentionally buried, and then it's tied off here.
So far, this group has not lost a soldier.
Definitely a nightmare.
But that time may come. It's a risk, he says, he's prepared to take because, for the West's former warriors in the war on terror, Ukraine has given them something back.
One way or the other, they've either been lost or they've lost everything. So this has given them another chance. You know, they come back here, and it's like they've put their life back together.
That's a look at one of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Coffeyville, Kansas police arrest a man for murder. Authorities believe 61-year-old David Jackson killed 47-year-old Melvin Simpson Jr. in a Coffeyville home on May 16th. Police saw him coming out of the home and arrested him on unrelated charges. He was being held at the Montgomery County Jail. They arrested him on charges of first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon, among other crimes. Another Coffeyville man will face a jury trial in December after he was charged with raping an infant less than 18 months of age. A judge said during a preliminary hearing there was enough evidence to bring 57-year-old Archie Cannon in front of a jury. He's charged with rape and aggravated intimidation of a witness or victim. Bond is set at $100,000. State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas, after a person is found dead in the home. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning of a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. Authorities say there was no fire, but one wall of the home had been blown out by an explosion. 3 other exterior walls and the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent a further collapse of the home and then went in and found the body. They have not yet released the victim's identity. ATF and State Fire Marshal's Office are helping with the investigation. Humane Society of the United States is out with its Horrible 100 for 2022. The list is an annual report on puppy breeders and dealers that the Humane Society has deemed as problematic because of treatment or living conditions of the animals. This is the 10th year of the report. Like the 9 previous years, Missouri is reported as having the highest number of dealers listed with 26. Kansas has 7 dealers listed and Oklahoma has 1. You can view the report on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Quite a ways from being over, that is for sure, and recent updates include extending flood warnings along the Neosho River through the Erie Gauge down through Parsons. Next stop will be Oswego and then eventually Commerce, Miami area. Heavy rain developing in Cherokee, Newton, and Jasper counties. Live look over 7th and Rangeline where we just had it coming down sideways. So lock in and anticipate flooding is the best advice right now, because this thing is going to reload for the afternoon hours. We're going to see stronger rain this afternoon than what we've already had this morning, lasting all the way until the end of the work week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
For the tens of thousands of Afghan refugees living here in the States, many of their fears are becoming a reality. Close to 80,000 escaped Taliban rule after the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan last August. And since then, many are finding it hard to acclimate to their new life in a new country with a new language and culture. Thousands also fear being sent back to Afghanistan as the Taliban imposes new restrictions on women and threatens men with jail time if females do not adhere to rules. Gary Baumgarten reports.
It's been almost a year since the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan sparked a refugee emergency resulting in more than 76,000 Afghans escaping to America to avoid Taliban persecution. A consequence many feared would be the result of them assisting U.S. forces during the war.
For the lucky, they came with the knapsack. For others, it was just the clothes on their backs.
Now the tens of thousands of Afghan refugees here on U.S. soil are still struggling to adapt.
We feel safe, but we are worried for our family, how they would manage their food. It's hard to get money to Afghanistan.
But many refugees could soon be forced to go back as they face difficulties applying for asylum.
Asylum is backlogged to the tune of well over 400,000 applications that are just sitting there. It's a years-long process, and of course, humanitarian parolees can only reside in the U.S. for up to 2 years. So they are facing a ticking time bomb.
This comes as the humanitarian situation overseas worsens. Protesters recently marching in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul after the Taliban mandated women wear head-to-toe clothing in public and only leave their homes when absolutely necessary.
If such decrees are issued and imposed on women, then women across Afghanistan will be eliminated.
This comes as Taliban leaders also ruled female news anchors must now cover their faces while on the air.
We'll have another look at your forecast when we return.
While we're locked in with this on a Tuesday morning, also paying a fair amount of attention to what's developing down to our southwest, because we've got flash flood warnings that are consistently popping up. Now, we've been able to keep our flood countywide flood watches. We have not had any flash flood warnings, but it's an indicator of the hard rain that's still to come, particularly when we look at what's going to roll up through Oklahoma. Right now is in the midst of Joplin. And come back, let's update our flood watches because we've got some new warnings to talk about along our rivers as well.
Coming up, a house explosion leads to the reveal of a body.
We have flood watches and warnings, and we're waiting for them to expand with the amount of rain that we're going to pick up. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a 4-state man is charged with the rape of an infant.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories and much more in just a moment. But first, let's check in on all of this rain with Michael Hayslip.
We got updates along the Neosho River, Tanya. It was just a matter of time. We were sitting here talking earlier about when those flood warnings first popped up, expecting those to be expanded, and sure enough, in the past 10 minutes, that is exactly what has happened. As we take a zoom in here, give you an idea of the hard rain coming down between Joplin and Carthage, and then out toward Independence, making its way up to Fredonia. Then let's talk a little bit about our rivers. The dark green, tracing from Iola down through Chanute to Parsons all the way to Miami. That is a flood warning for the Neosho River. And look at that, lasting all the way until Sunday at our far southern points. Up in Vernon County, north of Nevada, that's a flood watch for the Little Osage. And then as you flip on over to Osceola, just out to the east, we've got a flood watch for the Osage River. And so these are quickly expanding. Now, for everybody in that green color throughout southeast Kansas that are countywide, those are flood watches. And I tell you what, we picked up 8 counties from this point in time yesterday as far as what we were anticipating. Starting to see close to 2 inches of accumulation down along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line. Get into that light blue. That's anywhere from quarter to half. And everybody out on the right-hand side in the eastern portion, you will not be exempt. We will eventually get widespread rain throughout there as well. 58 degrees right now in Joplin. Temperatures mid-60s here a little bit later on, but look at how it continues to spread. Moves in from the south with all that Gulf moisture. Our timeline taking us all the way from Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And there's a good example right there, especially when we talked about those eastern counties that you're probably waking up this morning looking at that radar and going, oh man, I feel bad for everybody out to the west, but we're looking okay. Well, you will be for this morning. But then, like I said, we're going to get widespread. We'll actually see some real intense rain, Tanya, pick up this afternoon into tonight as well. Luckily, we've been able to keep the lightning down to the south. We have not had to worry about our lightning tracker this morning.
That's good. Very good.
So far.
We'll take that. All right, thanks, Michael. Coffeyville, Kansas police arrest a man for murder. Authorities believe 61-year-old David Jackson killed 47-year-old Melvin Simpson Jr. in a Coffeyville home on May 16th. Police saw him coming out of the home and arrested him on unrelated charges. He was being held at the Montgomery County Jail. They arrested him on charges of first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon, among other crimes. Another Coffeyville man will face a jury trial in December after he was charged with raping an infant less than 18 months of age. A judge said during preliminary hearing there was enough evidence to bring 57-year-old Archie Cannon in front of a jury. He's charged with rape and aggravated intimidation of a witness or victim. Bond is set at $100,000. State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas after a person is found dead in the home. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning of a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. Authorities say there was no fire, but one wall of the home had been blown out by an explosion. 3 other exterior walls and the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent a further collapse of the home and then went in and found the body. They have not yet released the victim's identity. ATF and State Fire Marshal's office are helping with the investigation. City of Chanute is warning residents about a scam call going around. Officials say the scammers are telling residents they overpaid their utility bills and are owed a refund. But to send the refund, they need the residents' credit card and personal information. The city's not making these calls. They say if you overpaid, the difference will show up as a credit on your next bill. On Monday, a local nonprofit showed its support for the Joplin Police Department. Joplin's Community Support Services of Missouri donated $4,500 to the department. Organization serves people with disabilities and works closely with the police department for assistance when additional support is needed. Officials say they want that close relationship to continue.
I just want the togetherness that we have currently and had, in April and into May to continue forever. You know what I mean? That we don't, it's sad that that needs something so incredibly tragic to bring everybody together. But I think if we keep that at the forefront of our brains and keep going like this, it's going to be amazing.
Money was raised through a spaghetti feed after the tragic shooting in March that left 2 officers dead and another injured. Folks in Joplin had the chance to get rid of those Monday blues with some fun games of bowling at the 4th Street Bowl. Free bowling, free pizza, and giveaways sponsored by the Alliance of Southwest Missouri. It was all to raise awareness against drugs.
What this is for community members to come together and have something that is healthy and fun to do within the community. And our ultimate goal is to reduce drug use in the long term.
The Alliance hopes to have more events like this in the future. Better Business Bureau warns consumers about a Southwest Missouri clothing retailer who is not fulfilling orders. Officials say multiple customers have reported Amara's Apparel, based in Ozark, Missouri, to the BBB for orders not being delivered, not providing refunds, and failing to contact customers. The business sells handmade children's clothing and has received an F rating from the BBB.
Better Business Bureau always reaches out to the company owner. We always reach out every time we get a complaint. Then we reach out when there's a pattern of complaints. So unfortunately, our attempts to reach the business for comment failed, and it did not respond to a Better Business Bureau letter addressing the pattern of consumer complaints.
Better Business Bureau has a list of tips to shop online safely on its website at bbb.org. Today, back in 1935, Major League Baseball holds its first night game. The Cincinnati Reds beat the Philadelphia Phillies 2-1 in Major League Baseball's first ever night game. Played courtesy of recently installed lights at Crossley Field in Cincinnati. However, the first ever night game in professional baseball took place on May 2nd, 1930, when a Des Moines, Iowa team hosted Wichita for a Western League game. The game drew 12,000 people at a time when Des Moines was averaging just 600 fans per game. Evening games soon became popular in the minor leagues, and it took 5 years for the major leagues to catch up to their small town counterparts.
And you know where the first organized night game was played?
Where would that be?
Independence.
Oh, yep. I do not. There you go.
Ooh, I was going to say the radar was up. Yep, right there. That's where the very first organized And they would actually play in Independence like 5 years before Major League Baseball ever tried it. Well, we got multiple baseball claims to fame, that's for sure. But Independence is one of them.
You're talking about Independence, Kansas.
Yep, they just have a great minor league team.
Nice, very cool.
All right, you're not going to get anything done outside today. That is for sure. Torrential rainfall going to just stick with us all throughout, not only Tuesday, but also Wednesday as well. Now, as this begins to move up from Oklahoma, very intense rain for later this morning into the afternoon hours. That's probably going to result in a little more lightning than what we're seeing right now. We haven't had much lightning so far. Really going to have to ride this out until almost the end of the work week. Still shaping up to be a nice Memorial Day weekend, though, as we're into the 80s. We'll finally get some much-needed sunshine.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, grab your fanciest suit and a motorcycle. We're going on a ride to raise awareness for men's mental health. Plus, New York City says goodbye to its last public payphone. And cutting TV time by an hour may help you more than you think. We'll explain why. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, an end of an era. New York has hung up its last public payphone. The city removed the kiosk from the street on Monday. New York started transitioning from payphones to Link NYC kiosk in 2015. The system offers free Wi-Fi, free phone calls, and charging stations. For those who appreciate the nostalgia, you can still find some private payphones on public property. And if Clark Kent ever needs to change into Superman, he can find 4 walk-in old-school phone booths around the city. That's good because he needs those payphones. How do we get Superman? Right. Well, a manhunt is underway for a Texas woman accused of murdering an elite cyclist who allegedly had a relationship with her boyfriend. 34-year-old Caitlin Armstrong is wanted in the shooting death of 25-year-old Mariah Wilson. Ed Lavendera reports on the love triangle that appears to have gone terribly wrong.
She is snaking through into the finish. This is Mariah Wilson.
Anna Mariah Wilson was considered one of the best gravel racing cyclists in the world. She was known as Mo.
The champ is in the house. This is Mariah Wilson.
On May 11th, she was in Austin, Texas, preparing for an upcoming race. Austin police say that night, Mo Wilson was found murdered in the bathroom of a friend's home. She was shot multiple times. According to a police affidavit, on the day Wilson was murdered, she went to a public swimming pool and had dinner with fellow cyclist Colin Strickland. The two had a brief romantic relationship in the fall of 2021 while Strickland was on a break from his relationship with Caitlin Marie Armstrong, who he had dated for about 3 years. The police affidavit states that Armstrong was furious and shaking in anger when she learned of Strickland's romantic relationship with Wilson in January. Austin police say surveillance video shows Armstrong's car pulling up next to the house around the time Wilson was murdered, and that a gun discovered in the house where she lived with Strickland is potentially the same firearm. The day after the murder, Caitlin Armstrong was interviewed by investigators and presented with the evidence. The police affidavit described Armstrong was very still and guarded as investigators detailed what they had discovered. She then requested to leave. A week later, U.S. Marshals announced they were assisting in a search for Armstrong, but the 34-year-old woman has disappeared since her interview with police.
Happy birthday,
BWR champion!
Just weeks before her murder, Mo Wilson was celebrating with friends after winning the Belgian waffle ride in California. These are the last images of her competing in a sport she dominated. Wilson is described as a role model, yet shy and compassionate, an athlete who developed an intense passion for cycling while growing up on the bike trails of Vermont.
Wilson's family is speaking out, saying she was not in a relationship when she died. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back.
Their finest jumped on their motorbikes for what's called the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. This took place over the weekend in Austin, Texas. As Amanda Ruiz shows us, it's a ride's focus that's not about the bikes, but to raise awareness for men's mental health and prostate cancer.
We want people to see us and go, what is that?
At first glance, it may be an odd sight to see driving around Austin.
Why are all these people on these great motorcycles wearing suits?
174 bikers dressed in their finest and most stylish clothes headed downtown on their vintage motorbikes to take part in Austin's Distinguished Gentleman's Ride Sunday afternoon.
Dress dapper, ride dapper.
The Distinguished Gentleman's Ride doesn't just happen in Austin. It takes place on the same day every year in cities across the world, all to raise money and awareness for men's mental health and prostate cancer research.
There's not a lot for raising awareness for men's prostate cancer, and mental health goes hand in hand with that because it's kind of a big deal, and we're happy to be able to contribute funds, raise awareness, and have this lovely event.
Austin alone raised $20,346 for this annual fundraiser, an event that included a very low-speed ride through downtown Austin and into East Austin.
Is a pretty fantastic event involving mostly vintage motorcycles or vintage-styled motorcycles to raise funds and awareness for men's mental health as well as prostate cancer studies.
Video of somebody doing something outside here throughout the course of the show. I longingly look up at the sky because we're not going to be able to get out and do anything here for the next several days. Heavy rain making its way out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma's still pretty much a mess as they're now developing flash flooding concerns, but it's making its way toward us and our accumulation numbers steadily growing as we kind of zoom in here. I'll give you an idea of how we've lost a little bit of that hard rain that was over 7th and Range Line. Recent updates of note are going to be the flood warnings along the Neosho River, indicated there in the dark green, running from Iola to Chanute down to Parsons. If we drop into the far southern part, into Ottawa County, the Commerce-Miami area, that flood warning is actually going to run all the way until Sunday. That's right, Sunday. Now, throughout southeast Kansas, in that green area, that is the flood watches in effect till Wednesday at midnight. Go down to Tulsa. This is why we're keeping our eyes down to the southwest, as they have flash flooding concerns. So far, no storm reports coming out of the Tulsa area, but also too, you look at the accumulation that they've picked up already. They're in excess of 5 inches. As we get closer to our neck of the woods on the Kansas-Missouri state line, we've cruised over 1.5 inches. And now we're seeing that 1-inch mark indicated in the green grow to the north. Eventually, everybody out to the east, you are going to run into it as well, because this is not going to be one of those that just skirts right over us. We are locked in for the duration of our Tuesday all the way into Wednesday as well. So anticipate the flooding. Do not leave without the umbrella. And if we can keep our head above water, we're in store for a nice Memorial Day weekend, that's for sure. We just got to get there with rain in the next 3 days first. Be back with Healthwatch next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, Jif peanut butter has recently been linked to a salmonella outbreak, leaving at least 14 people sick. Stephanie Stahl has more on salmonella and ways to protect against infection.
Salmonella is a bacteria and a common cause of food poisoning, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Each year in the United States, salmonella bacteria cause about 1.35 million infections, 26,500 hospitalizations, and 420 deaths. Most of these illnesses are due to food. Symptoms usually start 6 hours to 6 days after infection. Most people who get sick from salmonella have diarrhea, fever, and stomach cramps and recover without treatment after 4 to 7 days. In some cases, people can become severely dehydrated and need medical attention. Younger children, older adults, and people with weakened immune systems can also have more severe illnesses that require hospitalization. A person can become infected with salmonella by eating raw or undercooked foods that are contaminated. Unwashed raw fruits and vegetables can also carry the bacteria. And raw eggs and unpasteurized dairy can also be a source of salmonella. Also, be careful of cross-contamination in the kitchen when handling raw meat. I'm Stephanie Stahl, CBS News, Philadelphia.
Well, a person can also get infected with salmonella from handling turtles, snakes, and lizards. So don't put peanut butter on your turtles. There you go, kids. Common air pollutants are associated with more severe cases of COVID-19. Canadian researchers looked at exposure to fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, and ground level ozone. They found that people living in areas with higher levels of these pollutants were at elevated risk of being admitted to the intensive care unit for COVID-19. Cutting TV time to less than an hour a day could help prevent more than 1 in 10 cases of coronary heart disease. A group of scientists from the UK and Hong Kong found people who watched more than 4 hours of TV each day were at greatest risk of the disease, regardless of genetic factors. However, time spent in front of a computer screen did not appear to increase the risk of heart disease. And infusions of the local anesthetic lidocaine may help those suffering from chronic migraine. A study published by BMJ included more than 600 patients who were hospitalized with migraine and received lidocaine infusions over several days, along with other treatments. Most of the patients saw rapid pain relief and had fewer headaches per month. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Give you an idea about what we've got weather-wise right now. It's going to be a cool one, but remember, this is the most important thing, is we've got flood warnings because the rain is not going to stop. As a matter of fact, we're going to update our warnings and watches when we come back right after this.
Coming up, a house explosion leads to the reveal of a body.
Heavy Tuesday morning rain already resulting in flood watches and warnings. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a man gets charged with the rape of an infant.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:28. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Don't be looking for any sunshine anytime soon. It is get used to this site over 7th and Rangeline, because that is what we're locked in for the next 2.5 days. Right now we're seeing the heaviest of the rain on the western edge of southeast Kansas, backing off as you get into the central portions, but everybody's going to end up drenched by the time it's all said and done. We talk about that line right there from Independence to Chanute. No surprise that that is exactly where southeast Kansas has the flood watches lasting up until Wednesday. Now, on top of that, recent developments this morning include flood warnings now along the Neosho River, running all the way from Chanute into Ottawa County down by the Commerce Miami area. An idea that our rivers and banks are going to swell, and flooding is pretty imminent at this point in time if it's going to keep this up. 58 degrees over 7th and Rangeline. Temperatures much better than what we had yesterday. Remember yesterday, if you joined us, we were dropping wind chills as low as 37. So the fact that we've kind of stabilized with our cloud cover, that's not a problem. But then as we reset, okay, that's where we sit right now. And I'd love to tell you, well, maybe we'll get a break. Maybe this will blow over us. No, we go from that to this. We're going to get some heavier rain for this afternoon into the evening hours. Probably an uptick in lightning as well. And then even we see sporadic breaks, but then Wednesday, right back on it with all the Gulf moisture that just keeps on rolling in from Texas up through Oklahoma and Arkansas, and will not leave us alone until we get to the end of the work week. Tanya, silver lining, still looking at a great Memorial Day weekend. Sunny skies up into the 80s, and we're going to need some sunshine by then.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, this rain just reminds me of an autoplay ad that you can't find the pause button on.
That is a very problematic thing that you're dealing with. I'm dealing with the fact that the month of May is going to end up twice as wet as what we'd historically anticipate.
Yeah, well, in your yard.
To each their own.
Your yard will need a sump pump itself.
I don't know if a sump pump's going to help me out right now.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, Coffeeville, Kansas man will face a jury trial in December after he is charged with raping an infant less than 18 months of age. A judge said during a preliminary hearing there was enough evidence to bring 57-year-old Archie Cannon in front of a jury. He's charged with rape and aggravated intimidation of a witness or victim. Bond is set at $100,000. Coffeeville, Kansas police arrest a man for murder. Authorities believe 61-year-old David Jackson killed 47-year-old Melvin Simpson Jr. in a Coffeeville home on May 16th. Police saw him coming out of the home and arrested him on unrelated charges. He was being held at the Montgomery County Jail. They arrested him on charges of first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon, among other crimes. State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas, after a person is found dead in the home. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning of a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. Authorities say there was not a fire, but one wall of the home had been blown out by an explosion, and 3 other exterior walls and the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent a further collapse of the home and then went in and found the body. They have not yet released the victim's identity. ATF and State Fire Marshal's office are helping with the investigation. City of Chanute, Kansas is warning residents about a scam call going around. Officials say the scammers are telling residents they overpaid their utility bills and are owed a refund. But to send the refund, they need the residents' credit card and personal information. The city is not making these calls. They say if you overpaid, the difference will show up as a credit on your next bill. On the last day of the session on Monday, Kansas lawmakers in both chambers voted to approve a bill allowing some business owners to receive property tax and rental rebates. The bill would allocate $50 million in federal COVID-19 relief funding to the rebates. Businesses that were forced to shut down during the pandemic would be eligible for up to $5,000 in rebates on property taxes or rent paid during that time. Businesses that received more than $150,000 in COVID relief would not be eligible. The bill now heads to the governor's desk. Humane Society of the United States is out with its Horrible 100 for 2022. This list is an annual report on puppy breeders and dealers that the Humane Society has deemed as problematic because of a treatment or living conditions of the animals. This is the 10th year of the report, and like the 9 previous years, Missouri is reported as having the highest number of listed dealers with 26. Kansas has 7 dealers listed and Oklahoma has 1. You can view the report on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Voters head to the polls for primaries in 5 states today, but all eyes are on Georgia, where former President Donald Trump's influence is being tested. His choice for governor, David Perdue, is down in the polls, and his own vice president is backing incumbent Governor Brian Kemp. Bradley Blackburn reports.
In Georgia, former President Trump drew a line, and now voters are deciding whether to listen. Mr. Trump wants to oust incumbent Governor Brian Kemp, who upheld the result of the 2020 election. But the governor appears to be holding on.
We cannot take tomorrow for granted. We're doing this for a reason.
Kemp is popular with voters for his handling of the pandemic, and he defeated Democrat Stacey Abrams, who was running for governor again. On Monday, former Vice President Mike Pence lent his support to Kemp, though he never mentioned President Trump.
I'm here because Brian Kemp, frankly, is one of the most successful Republican governors in America.
A Fox News poll suggests Kemp has a 30-point lead over former Senator David Perdue, who was handpicked by Trump to challenge Kemp. Perdue downplayed the result.
That poll is a suppression poll. There's no way that poll is right.
Also on the ballot, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who refused pressure from President Trump to overturn the 2020 vote count. He's in a tight race against a Trump-backed challenger.
What I need to do is try to make something better for this country.
Mr. Trump's pick for Georgia Senator, former football star Herschel Walker, is expected to win his primary. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the hardline Trump supporter, faces several Republican challengers.
I have been tested, I am proven, and I have stood for the things that we believe in.
A primary day where President Trump may not be on the ballot, but his power to move Republican voters is. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
Some other races to watch in Texas. George P. Bush, the son of Jeb Bush, is challenging the incumbent Attorney General Ken Paxton. And in Arkansas, former White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders is leading in her bid to become the Republican nominee for governor. Today, back in 1999, Queen singer Freddie Mercury, who died at 91, was honored on a new set of Millennium stamps issued by the Royal Mail. Mercury, who was featured on the 19 pence stamp, was a keen stamp collector, and his collection was bought by the post office in 1993. Stamp marked his contribution to the live and charity concert in 1985 and caused controversy by featuring a small portion of Queen's drummer Roger Taylor in the background. UK stamps, by tradition, only carry pictures of living persons who are members of the royal family.
So interesting that if it was issued by the Royal Mail, essentially it was the Queen honoring Queen.
I really wish I would have looked ahead and noticed the story was coming so I could have Queen in front of me.
Yes, the return of the Funko Pop. Here's a look at our Skywatch storm tracker. And I hate to just be repetitive, but this is what we're going to have to put up with for 3 days. We are going to flood, and as we get into the afternoon, we just keep on picking up additional rainfall all the way into Wednesday morning. A whole lot of Gulf moisture, but we can blame the Gulf Coast and all the moisture coming off of it. We don't really get a warm up until Friday. That's because that might be the next time we see sunshine.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, a dispute over a recently found dress puts an auction on hold. Plus, coming soon to a theater near you, the latest movies. Whether it's the smell of popcorn that draws you in or just wanting to get out of the house, there's a movie you'll more than likely want to see this summer. And we want to know which one you're getting excited about. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, Starbucks is the latest company to pull its business out of Russia due to the war in Ukraine. Seattle-based coffee giant has about 130 stores and 2,000 employees in Russia. Those workers will be paid for 6 months. Starbucks will help them find new jobs. A judge blocks the auction of Judy Garland's dress, the one she wore as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. The Catholic University of America wants to put the iconic dress up for bid to fund a new film acting program. We've ran this story before, remember? It was expected to fetch up to $1 million, but a Wisconsin woman claims the dress belongs to the estate of her late uncle. So the judge has delayed the auction until the issue is resolved. And Arby's is bringing in more meats. The fast food restaurant, best known for its roast beef, will sell a burger for the first time. Why? The Wagyu Steakhouse burger will be available until July 31st for about $6. Arby's says it's 50% larger than a McDonald's quarter pounder. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Insta Poll and our KOAM News Now Facebook page, talking about summer movie season. Or summertime traditionally means swimming, barbecuing, kids on vacay, and the blockbuster movies. This year's lineup seems to have something for everybody. You've got the return of Iceman in Top Gun, to the return of everyone's favorite space ranger in Lightyear. And of course, we've got Elvis, as seen on your screen. Tom Hanks is in that Elvis movie, oh, by the way. Jurassic Park is out, Bullet Train, Thor, Love and Thunder. And so our question for you is, okay, if you're going to make sure that you got one that you're going to see first, what's it going to be? And right now we've got 34% for both Top Gun and Jurassic World. Those have consistently been at the top. Thor comes in a distant third, and then everybody else only garnering single digits as far as percentages go. You can take part each and every morning, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. That'll take you right to the poll. You can also connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM News Now. We're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this, but first a small break, and then we come back with birthdays and anniversaries.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Captain William and Major Samuel McWilliams. This pair of Verdela, Missouri natives served in the Spanish-American War, the Philippines, and the Sulu Islands. Their service dates back to 1898. To Captain William and Major Samuel McWilliams, we thank you. Today's four-state heroes.
We start with Chandler Bastion, who's celebrating his 11th birthday, and I am going to go out on a limb that if Chandler is in Parsons, then I bet you he is on the St. Patrick basketball team. Because they are the Saints. And I see that SP there in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday, Chandler.
Good sleuth in there, Michael. I think you're right. All right, we've got Jeevan Reynolds. Zeven is celebrating birthday number 12 this year. In Pittsburgh. Actually, I don't know where he's from.
Zeven also reminding us that warmer days are ahead where there will be tree climbing weather and not rain. We will be able to do that. Justice Day, celebrating his 17th birthday in Pittsburgh. And Justice, I want you to know that these happy birthday wishes come with love from Mama, Mom, Daddy, and the entire family.
All right. And we've got Kristen Hayes celebrating birthday number 17 this year. Looks like we got a lot of prom photos in there this year. Kristen is in Pierce City.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Rolling back to back. We're going to start with Rayleigh celebrating her 19th birthday. This is one of those that Tanya and I see it every year and we go, what in the world? Happy birthday to Miss Rayleigh. And you know what that means? Molly's turning 19 too. Rayleigh and Molly, a very happy birthday to the Herald twins in Pittsburgh.
All right, beautiful girls. All right, and Gabriel Langford turning 20 years old this year. Gabriel celebrating in Carterville.
Let's run out to Pittsburgh because that is where Kevin Jones, Chiefs fan extraordinaire, is celebrating his 36th. A very happy birthday, Kevin.
In Carthage, Adam Honschel turning 37 years old this year. Hope you have a great one, Adam.
Got kind of a big birthday celebration here, not only for Cheryl Blue, but somebody else that happened to be with her right there. Cheryl celebrating her 63rd birthday in Fort Scott. And Cheryl, I want you to have a marvelous birthday because I bet you're concentrating a whole lot of energy on somebody else's birthday right there, as her grandson Abel Chaplin is celebrating his 12th birthday as well in Fort Scott. So Cheryl and Abel, a very happy birthday to the both of you.
All right, Levon Lavelle turning 76 years old this year. Levon is their neighbor in Crestline. Hope you have a wonderful birthday.
And in Columbus, Peter Westervelt. A very happy birthday to Mr. Peter.
All right, and we've got Nate and Brandy Akey celebrating 19 years together this year.
They're extended family. The Akeys are extended family.
Yeah, our very own Debbie Haynes' daughter and son-in-law. They are in Neosho.
Congratulations, Nate and Brandy. Maxine James, look at this, celebrating her 99th birthday. She was a school teacher for 52 years, and she is in Arcadia. Maxine, a very happy birthday from all of us here. And Richard and Pat Dudley, they are celebrating their 53rd anniversary. My goodness, congratulations to the Dudleys. And a happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this May the 24th. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also connect to us on our website at KOAMNewsNow.com. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you can get special deals from local businesses. Just go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up when the KOAM Morning News transitions over to Fox 14, those little emperor penguins right there, they're facing some big issues. The loss of these magnificent creatures could spell catastrophe for the ecosystem in Antarctica. Yeah? If you join us over on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, we'll have the devastating effects of what that would mean for an entire continent. Before we get there, we don't have to worry about the cold. We got to find some dry spots. That is going to be our problem. We've still not seen a whole bunch of rain on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri, but I know that is of little relief to everybody else who probably finds themselves inundated with rain and perhaps even under flood watches and warnings as we look at everything that's already upon us and still is going to continue to move in from the south. Right now, we've got that line running from Erie, swooping through Parsons down to Oswego and Columbus. And then we've got another one just on the southeast side of Howard, right through Fredonia, and then making its way towards Chanute. And that is exactly why our county's in the green. Flood watches. These are watches lasting all the way until Wednesday at midnight. And remember, we then have the Neosho River throughout southeast Kansas. That was our new development this morning. Neosho River spawning a whole bunch of flood warnings and really not wanting to crest at its southernmost part until we get to Sunday. There we are, the rain-soaked 7th and range line. Temperatures, light jacket, probably get away with that today. And with our cloud cover, we just kind of hang in the mid-60s, with up a high 60 every now and then. But the most important factor is here we are, where are we going? Well, unfortunately, it just results in additional rainfall, especially picking up intensity for this afternoon. Give us a little bit of a break, but that's deceiving because the Gulf moisture is relentless and kicks in all the way through Wednesday as well. 7-day forecast where we're going to be looking at 2 to 4 inches of rain. Finally, though, Friday we can all take a deep breath, get ready for a nice Memorial Day weekend as our temperatures will be in the 80s with mostly sunny skies. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Coffeyville, Kansas police arrest a man for murder. Authorities believe 61-year-old David Jackson killed 47-year-old Melvin Simpson Jr. in a Coffeyville home on May 16th. Police saw him coming out of the home and arrested him on unrelated charges. He was being held at the Montgomery County Jail. They arrested him on charges of first-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon, among other crimes. Another Coffeyville man will face a jury trial in December after he was charged with raping an infant less than 18 months of age. A judge said during a preliminary hearing there was enough evidence to bring 57-year-old Archie Cannon in front of a jury. He's charged with rape and aggravated intimidation of a witness or victim. Bond is set at $100,000. State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas after a person is found dead in the home. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning of a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. Authorities say there was not a fire, but one wall of the home had been blown out by an explosion and 3 other exterior walls in the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent a further collapse of the home, then went in and found the body. They have not yet released the victim's identity. ATF and State Fire Marshal's office are helping with the investigation. Humane Society of the United States is out with its Horrible 100 for 2022. The list is an annual report on puppy breeders and dealers that the Humane Society has deemed as problematic because of treatment or living conditions of the animals. This is the 10th year of the report, and like the 9 previous years, Missouri is reported as having the highest number of dealers listed with 26. Kansas has 7 dealers listed, and Oklahoma has 1. You can view the report on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Don just got a new storm report out of Harper, Kansas. Now that's out to the west of us, but just to give you an idea. So Harper County, which is just about along the Kansas-Missouri state line, but 3.2 inches of rain since this thing started on them. While we're not there, we're probably going to end up around there, continuing to roll through from the south all morning long. Even though we get sporadic breaks, we're going to be right back on it for Wednesday morning as well. Remember, flooding will be our main concern. Flash flooding has kept itself down to the south, so we've been lucky on that aspect. But we still got flood watches throughout southeast Kansas and flood warnings for not only the Neosho, but also, too, remember the Osage and Little Osage lasting all the way into the Memorial Day weekend.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making extra crispy fried chicken in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Morning news continues on KOAM, CBS Mornings. That's coming up next. And I saw it this morning, primary season. That is the main focus for what they're doing this morning, especially with the Georgia governor's primary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Interesting to see what happens in the Sarah Sanders governor race as well.
Yep.
All right. Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning...
Go ahead, you can talk about her. Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
Manchurian Candidate. I'll throw down that as my favorite Angela Lansbury movie.
All right. We'll continue to talk about our summer blockbusters as well. Angela Lansbury receiving a Tony for her lifetime achievements.
And I want to find out more about the Emperor Penguins, because I do enjoy watching them. All right, that wraps it up for this Tuesday edition. Try to stay dry. And most importantly, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.